Okay, friends, I got a question for you. If I stripped away your logo and your colors and the visual parts of your brand from your emails or your social media posts or wherever you're reaching people, could I still tell that it's coming from you? That is the question we're playing with today. I'm joined by the incredible Joanne Homestead from Desk Plant Creatives. She's a copy coach and an incredible storyteller. She calls herself a story whisperer, and for good reason. And we talk about what a recognizable voice actually sounds like on page, not just in theory, and what makes a brand really stand out beyond just the visuals. We talk about how to stop mimicking everyone in your feed and why those everyday tiny human stories are really the spine of what people remember about you and your brand. We also get into this really cool personality code system that Joanne uses called the Bank Personality Codes. That stands for Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. And we talk about how Joanne uses those to really connect with people in the inbox. She mostly focuses on email, but this applies to anywhere you're interacting with clients or potential clients. You're going to come away with some simple ways to punch up your brand voice and make your brand stand out as unmistakably you by leaning into your stories. So if you've ever thought, I'm not a writer, I can't lean into that, that is not my forte, this episode is for you because we all can be writers. We all have stories to tell, and it's so worth leaning into that side of your story. That's what's going to make you stand out. So take a breath, grab a coffee, and let's make your voice the thing that carries your brand, logo or not. Let's dive in. Hey, beautiful human. You're listening to Bold Women in Business, the show where strategy meets soul in marketing, branding, and business growth. I'm your host, Rachel Honeyman, messaging and branding strategist, content queen, and compulsive meaning maker. Every week, I'll help you ditch the cookie cutter playbook and build a brand that actually sounds like you, sells like hell, and feels so damn good to show up for. Let's get bold. Thank you so much for joining me, Joanne. Do you want to just introduce yourself to the listeners? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Joanne Homestead of Desk Plant Creatives, and I am an email copywriter, copy coach, and story whisperer. I'm trying that new one out. I used to say obsessed storyteller, but I'm going to try story whisperer.
I like that.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
And I think it's perfect for the conversation that we're going to have today. Really ties into why I wanted to bring you on to talk about this topic, which is kind of this question of how your brand is so much more than your logo, right? And so many people think of logo as that's the arbiter of brand, right? And I obviously think that that is not the case. Logos are important, but they are very much a tiny sliver of the puzzle. So really, I wanted to explore this question of if you didn't have your logo anywhere, right? If we just completely stripped your logo away, could your audience tell that something was coming from your brand? And I think that that really comes from having a strong voice and having a really strong story. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
We're going to dive right in here. Oh, yeah, I think the first thing when I think about like having a strong voice is for a lot of people, like there's a lot of myths around what that means to have a strong voice. Because for some people, they may be thinking like, oh, I have to be loud. I have to sound a certain way. I have to sound bold. I have to sound, or like whatever it is. Strong voice just means when someone sees your writing voice, they know that it's you. And so that is going to sound like however your personality comes across as. It's just a reflection of your personality. And so I think that's one of the biggest things. I don't know if you have noticed that with branding, with trying to bring a certain reflection of yourself. And for a lot of people, they're seeing what other people are doing and they're like, oh, I have to look that way because they're successful. Therefore, I have to come across a certain way. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have a master's in English. And one exercise that we did when I was in graduate school was we actually picked a selection of writers that we liked and tried to mimic their style. And it was a really cool exercise in seeing how distinct different voices are. And that actually allows you to, I'm not suggesting that everyone go and try to write like Ernest Hemingway or anything like that, but it is a cool exercise of like saying, okay, If I try to meld my writing to this person, it almost highlights like, well, that's not me. That's not my voice, and helps you like define what your voice is. But I
Mhm.
do think that there's a lot of mimicking happening out in the ether. And I think that the world of ChatGPT probably also has made that more pronounced, and the need for like having a more defined voice is even more important than ever. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just thought of a couple things. One is I'll have my husband's phone and I'm texting for him, or he has my phone and he's texting for me because I don't know, we're dealing with the kids, we're just doing something else and we want to respond to a friend through text messages. And my husband knows my voice. So when he writes a text message on my phone, he's like, okay, I'm going to be Joanne. So there's got to be an exclamation point in there. There's going to be a smiley face. It just comes across in a much more enthusiastic way. And then when I write for him, I have to be like, okay, periods, only periods, very short, succinct. Don't sound like I'm a human here.
I'm laughing because my husband is the same way. I'm always like, why do you sound so rude? But it's just, that's how he
Blunt.
texts. He just texts that way.
Right. Just very, it sounds very blunt. I feel like that's a little bit right there, thinking about like how do you communicate with your friends through text message? What does that sound like? That's a bit of your voice right there. That's a bit of your writing voice. But also what you said about taking on your favorite authors' voices, what I think is really helpful if you really want to find your writing voice is to look at your favorite writers.
Hmm.
That could be authors like Ernest Hemingway, or it could be, your favorite blogger online, Substack articles, wherever you're reading. Find those people that you really like. I have been a big reader all my life until I had kids. There's not much reading going on, but I have been trying to get more into it again just because I'm trying to find things that don't stress me out too much, just give me a little escape from our current world that just need a little
Yeah.
break from. And so I found in one of the little libraries in our neighborhood a Bill Bryson book. Do you know him? He does the humorous travel books.
Well, I think I have read one or two of his. Yeah.
I think his famous one is like Into the Woods, but I'm reading one about him going to Australia. And I'm laughing out loud like every other page. And it's published from like 2000. This is like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. I love his writing style. And when I notice, ooh, I like someone's writing style, I start to play with it. And I'm like, ooh, what makes this line funny? Why did I laugh out loud about this part here? And so if you really want to work on your writing voice, start noticing other people's writing style and what is it that you like about it. And then try playing with it yourself. And through that way, you're going to develop your voice. You may sound like someone else for a bit, but as you like meld it and you're playing, like there's so much playfulness that can happen in your writing. And that's what I do. I'm just playing around with my words. I like to be a word orchestrator, and it's going to give it a different feel or a different emotion, or it comes across. Maybe there are different personalities in there, and that's where you're really finding your voice.
Yeah, I love that idea. Like, I think that sometimes for people who are not natural writers, this can probably sound really intimidating, right? Like, you and I are like, we're writers. So, of course, we want to play with our words, we want to do all that. How do you teach this to people who are not naturally inclined to writing, or like haven't done that work before, like haven't
Mhm.
really explored how to play with their words in that way?
Yeah, I think it really starts with your identity. First, identifying as a writer. And I have to confess, I didn't identify myself as a writer until just in the last 5 years. I identified as a teacher. I was a teacher for 15 years. Even though when I started identifying myself as a writer, I could see the thread from my childhood. I loved writing.
Hmm.
And so that was something I leaned into. And, I think it was in sixth grade. My mom said, why don't you sign up for a summer camp or course at the local college, which that was my first time. And I was like, oh, wow. It's like when you open up that, the local college pamphlet and you're just flipping through all the courses. Oh my gosh, ceramics and, all kinds of things in there. And I chose creative writing, but I never identified myself as a writer until 5 years ago.
Mm.
And I was like, I am a writer. And for people who don't identify as being a writer or feel like, oh, I'm not good at writing, or, for a lot of my clients, their superpower is speaking. That
Mm.
is where they feel naturally drawn to, and that's their superpower. But they really want to work on their writing because they like writing to a certain amount. They just don't feel confident with it. And so I feel like one of the first things is just identify yourself as a writer. It's the same thing as if you want to start running more, identify yourself as a runner. Because, okay,
Mhm.
once you identify yourself as a runner, what do runners do? Okay, they go running. Okay, I got to start running, but you're not going to go run a marathon. You start, run a little bit, walk a little bit, run a little bit, walk a little bit. That's how you start. And then you build and build and build. And your identity starts to build from there too. And the same thing with writing, what I believe is if you start identifying yourself as a writer instead of saying, I'm not a writer, I'm not a writer, say, okay, I'm a writer. What do writers do? They write, but you're not going to go and suddenly write a book. You're going to start by just writing little bits, just little bits here
Mhm.
and there. It could start with journaling, you just have a journal and write. Or if you want to use your phone, sometimes I use my notes app on my phone to write, but I think there's so much power in writing pen to paper, really. That
Mhm.
whole exercise is like a mental exercise in itself. So I would say yes, that's where I would start.
Yeah, I think that that is really smart and makes a lot of sense. And I think until you start to really identify yourself that way, if you just say, I don't write, right? I'm not a writer, of course it creates that barrier. I'm actually not a pen to paper person. Like, I just don't feel as comfortable that way. I see the value in it. I think it's like a tactile thing. Like, it just, my hand gets
Mm.
tired. But I actually use LinkedIn a lot of times as my playground for writing because it kind of limits you. I mean, you can write a lot on LinkedIn for sure, but you also don't have to, right? Like there are days when I just don't have any major ideas that I want to flesh out, but I want to get the writing done. So I might even write a paragraph, sometimes a sentence. You can do a lot with one sentence sometimes. So I think that it kind of is finding the medium that allows you to play. And some people put a lot of pressure on themselves on LinkedIn in particular, which, that's a whole nother topic. I think that there should be no pressure on any social media platform. I think we all need to just realize that nobody is paying as much attention as we think they are.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can remove that pressure from yourself and say, like, I'm just using this as my playground and a way to get more comfortable with my voice and develop my voice, it can be super powerful. I'm curious where, in your view, like, where does story come into play? Because I think it's such a huge part of developing your voice.
Gosh, we're just opening up a can of worms.
Yeah.
I have always loved storytelling, and I think that also comes from being a reader. Is just get so immersed in the stories, and that's what I love about them. And then as a teacher, like that's what I loved doing as a teacher. Now what I do as a copywriter and a copy coach is using storytelling as the vehicle to be able to express yourself and personal stories connected to you. One, because that builds relationships with your community. They're getting to know you through that. But then also like storytelling is such a great place to teach, like give them like this mindset shift, an aha moment, or just to reflect on a mistake or a success or a win. So storytelling is such a entertaining way, a very compelling way. And not only that, but like storytelling is memorable. When you tell a story, especially if it's connected to some kind of lesson or takeaway, this is what I talk a lot about in emails. What's the takeaway you want people to have at the end of the email when they're done reading the email? What is the thing you want people to take away from this email? And then you work backwards from there. Okay, now what's a story that can illustrate that takeaway? And when you have a really good, compelling story to write, people are going to remember that. And then you can repurpose it. You can use it again 6 months later, and people are going to say, oh, I remember that story and I needed to hear this again. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Where they will start referring back to those stories. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that was the story about the red brick building. Oh, that was the story about Sticky Cat. You're basically building your personality into your storytelling, and people are really getting to know you through your stories. And so that's my little nutshell on what I love about storytelling.
I think kind of similarly to my question about what if someone's not a writer, like, or doesn't see themselves as a writer, like, I think a lot of people have a misconception that when we say you need to tell your story, it needs to be something groundbreaking. But we have stories that happen every day,
Mm.
multiple times a day. If you start to think about your life through the lens of story, I think that it opens your mind in such a huge way. Again, I'll use LinkedIn as an example because I don't do it as much now, but for a while I was on a daily challenge. I set myself this challenge to really look for stories in my day and write about them, right?
Mhm.
And it's the silliest things sometimes, but if you look at it through that lens, you can find that really emotionally resonant connection, and not in the like performative LinkedIn storytelling way that I think a lot of us are familiar with. Like, I lost an apple at the store and here's what it taught me about leadership.
I lost an apple at the store.
I
Actually, I
don't
want
know.
to hear that story. No, I understand what you mean, but like really genuine storytelling is what you call it. Just like
Yeah.
genuinely connecting with your community and telling a story through that lens. I feel like it's the same way with when you go up to speak. There's like a performance kind of speaking where I can just see that they're performing and they're really good at it. It's just slightly lacking that connection, the
Yeah.
genuine connection piece versus someone who's speaking up there who may not be as well at that performance piece, but I resonate more with them because I can tell there's a genuine connection there.
Yeah, exactly. So I've taken a couple of workshops with you, which I highly recommend to anyone listening. Take a workshop with Joanne. She's excellent. And you focus on something, I think you use this code called the bank code
Mhm.
to help people really create that emotional connection with their audience. Can you talk about this code and give a little overview on how it works?
Yeah, I really love the bank personality codes. I always say personality in there now because I used to tell my husband, I'm collecting people's bank codes. And he says, that's illegal. Like, what are you? That does not sound legal what you're doing. Okay, I can hear that. So I say personality codes. It is a whole business and company. You can search it. And I learned the bank personality codes from my trainer, Dorothy Gaffey, who is a certified bank consultant and trainer and coach. What I love about Bank Personality Code is that it is very human. It is about talking to your buyer's personality code for sales. But it's not all about the numbers and the sales. It's about we are human here and we have certain values that we prioritize. And when we speak to those values, we're able to then invite them in and they're going to say yes to our offers. And so
Mhm.
that's what I really love about the bank personality codes. It's very human first, and then it's values driven. So it's all around values, which I absolutely love, like personal growth and values and branding. All that stuff is has to do with values. And so that is the second piece I really love about it. And so the third piece is it's really quick and easy. If you just search bank personality codes, crack my code online, you'll see it. It takes 90 seconds to crack your code. They do have more extensive assessments where you can get more minutely into the details, but in 90 seconds, you can crack your code. And there's 4 codes. As an example, mine is nurture, knowledge, action, blueprint. So nurture being my most prioritized of values, and then blueprint being my least prioritized. And so it's not about trying to put them in a box or just saying, this is you, this is just how you're going to be. There's a lot of dynamics in there, but it's really about, okay, I'm a nurturer. So my values are really around community and personal growth and relationships and harmony and all of the things. You can go look it up.
I'm pretty sure we have the same bank code. I think that we figured that out. I
I
think we have
think,
the same one.
yeah, is yours nurture, knowledge, action blueprint, or yours might be nurture, action, knowledge?
It might be nurture action, but
Okay.
nurture's for sure
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
Yeah. So we love the storytelling. So that's very much for us.
Quick pause. Can we talk about content for a second? If you're staring at a blank screen more often than you're hitting post, it might be because you're trying to create content that doesn't fit your actual strengths. It's kind of like wearing someone else's jeans. They may look super good on your friend, but you put them on and they are not comfortable and they just aren't doing your butt any favors. That's why I created the Content Marketing Power Type quiz. It's free and it helps you figure out the kind of content you were made to create. The kind of content that feels natural, sustainable, and actually connects with your people in a way that lights you up. In just 45 seconds, or maybe even 30 if you're quick about it, you're going to find out your power type and get custom recommendations to make content feel easier and more effective. Head on over to honeybeebold.com/quiz. That's honeybeebold.com/quiz. Take it and then DM me your result because I kind of need to know. All right, let's dive back into the episode. If you could briefly explain how you use this to tying back to what we've been talking about of building your stories, building your voice,
Yes.
and ultimately the goal of that is to build that really distinctive brand, right? And something that really connects with your audience that people see something from you and they know that it's from you.
So basically, if you know your own bank personality code, that's going to give you an idea of your writing voice. Because I'm a nurture first and knowledge second, that really means when I'm writing, you can hear that. You can hear those values in my writing. Because I talk a lot about personal growth. There is this like warm connection piece to it. And then the knowledge is very much the data and the research and going into that piece. You'll hear pieces of that too. And so if you just think about the first code, you're attracting similar codes as you. For one coach who came to my workshop, when she cracked her code, she realized as we were talking about it in the workshop, she's like, oh, actually, this code doesn't resonate with me. So she cracked her code again, and then it totally turned around. And she said, now this really resonates with me. Like this is me for sure. And through that workshop, after learning about bank and realizing this is my bank code, I realized I was trying to be someone else. Or what happens with a lot of my clients is I'm trying to be my client. If you attract the opposite code, they're trying to be them. But so that when they're writing, it's not sounding like them because they're thinking, what do they want to hear? What do they want to hear? I'm going to write what they want to hear instead of what is it in my heart to speak, which is going to come across a lot differently. And so
Yeah.
through that workshop, she was able to write a LinkedIn article. And she said, I got so many responses. Like, this is the first time I ever got comments from my LinkedIn article. Someone reached out to me through email. Someone DM'd her after that article. And she said it's because she was able to write in her voice using the bank personality codes and also knowing who she's speaking to. And it just gave her more confidence to be more herself when she's writing. And I feel like that's a big theme for a lot of my clients is that they want to write from their authentic writing voice. They're just stuck feeling like sounding like someone else or thinking I need to write this because I think that's what my ideal clients want to hear instead of tapping into like, okay, what's going on in here? And that's where the storytelling comes in too, is what story, such as losing the apple at the store or whatever that is.
Performative authenticity, I think is like the is the term for that, right?
Formative authenticity. Being authentic in the way that you write. And your stories don't have to sound a certain way. A lot of people think, oh, it has to be so vulnerable and serious, or it has to be funny. I add a lot of humor in mine. So then, my clients are like, I don't have that. You don't have to be. That's part of my personality. And so that's a part of my writing. If it's not part of your personality, that's okay. You can be serious. That's part of your personality. People are going to be attracted to that and they're going to resonate with it and they're going to start responding.
Yeah, I think that so many people try to like squeeze themselves into something that doesn't feel like them. And we touched on this already, but the idea that you look at other people and say, oh, that's working for them, so I have to do that. Well, that's not necessarily going to work for you
Mhm.
because people really can see through, right? When something feels forced, like on a gut level, we know that it's not authentic, it's not real. And I think we just connect so much more when something feels very real. I get this question a lot because my voice and my approach is like, I do get very vulnerable and very
Mhm.
raw. And people often will say, well, I don't feel like I can do that. And I'm like, you don't have to. Like, you do your own version of that. We all have different stories and different experiences. And the key is really tapping into what feels right to you.
You got to wear the shoes that fit for you. I think a lot of times when we start writing, because you see someone else's writing or whatever is happening, it doesn't feel like it fits you because you're wearing someone else's shoes. So they're not going to quite fit. And they have a style of shoe. When I was teaching second grade, we used to do this whole lesson where I would come into the classroom and I have this gigantic sack and I bring it in, I just dump it on the floor, and all the kids are like, what is that? Like, what is in there? They're immediately intrigued, and I just dump it all out on the floor, and it's all my shoes. And I put some of my husband's shoes in there. So we start going through all the shoes, and I was like, can you tell what I like just from my shoes? They're like, oh, you like running. I'm like, how can you tell? You have running shoes there. You can tell that it's trail running because they're muddy and
Mm,
dirty and it's not just like street running. We're like,
right.
I can tell you like to go dancing. You have some heels there. I can tell you like to go hiking. You have hiking boots. You can tell a lot from the different shoes. And then there's my husband's shoes, and they're like, what's going on with these shoes? I'm like, they're not my shoes. They're like twice the size of mine. I have one of the kids put it on, and they're like stumbling around. They're all laughing. But I said, this is what it's like when you're looking at your friend over there who's reading that book, and you really want to read that book, but it's not quite the right fit for you. It's the same thing with the writing. Is you're wearing shoes that are like twice the size too big, so it just doesn't feel right. You're stumbling. So yeah, I think when you find your writing voice, it really feels like the shoes fit and it feels like it's your style.
That's such a cute story. I love that. I love that exercise. So let's play a little bit of practical experimenting here.
Oh, yes. Okay. And I did have a little test that your listeners could try if they want with the bank personality codes. Look at all your emails that you get from businesses, like email newsletters, and then figure out which ones like really resonate with you and which ones don't. And when you crack your bank personality code, look at the report or come to one of my workshops so you can learn more about how to really identify this. You're going to see why certain emails resonate with you and certain ones don't according to the bank personality codes. I worked with a money coach last year and I bought through her emails, but her bank personality code is action first. So she doesn't do a whole lot of the kind of storytelling that nurturers like. She tells a lot of results from her clients. These are results I get so many emails. And for me, that's like, okay, that's great, but it's not quite resonating with me. But when she wrote a series of emails of the origin of her program, I was in for that because you talk about the why and the connection piece and how that had to do with her relationships. And that spoke to my nurture side. And I was like, yes, okay, I'm in for this. So go and look at all your emails and see which ones resonates, which one don't, and just take a look and see what's going on with what it is that's attracting you or what's repelling you away from it.
Yeah, that's a really good exercise. And we met through that money coach and we signed up for the same reason.
Oh, that's
Do
right.
you
Oh
remember
my
that?
God. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yes. It was a great program.
It was a great program. But yes, I totally felt the same way that I was like, okay, like this is interesting. These are good results. Sounds interesting, but I wasn't hooked until I heard the story because I'm the same way. I really resonate with that nurture side of things. So, related to this test that you just shared, I was wondering if we could riff a little bit because you're the email copy queen. I thought we could play with email subject lines and how they would resonate with different audiences. So, let's just say we've got a scenario where someone is getting ready to launch a program or they have a few spots left for their signature service. How would I speak to those different bank codes?
Yeah, okay, this is fun. So, for the nurturers, definitely the subject lines would be very much like storytelling based. You're putting a seed of the story in the subject line, and they're gonna be like, I want to know. I want to click on this and open this, see what's going on here. For the ones who are very much action, they want to hear about the results. They're like about the bottom line. What's the bottom line? Get to the bottom line for me, please. For them, the subject lines that really stand out for them if you're launching is how you can 2x your whatever XYZ results, or how my client 10x'd their whatever that is. I always like to start with this, but I forgot. We are not about clickbait. No clickbait here. Be authentic and genuine. And obviously, I'm all about ethical copywriting. So your subject line is also going to align with that ethical piece of it. We're not manipulating people, but we are wanting to inform people. So look at the results that you get. And can you translate it into a quantitative a number for the actions that really speaks to them? Because it's quick, it's short, it gets to the bottom line right away.
Mm-hmm.
For the K, the knowledge type, if it's logical and makes sense, then they're going to be like, yes. If there's something in it that's not making sense to me, then they're not going to want to do that. They also like to go down rabbit holes of research. My husband, I'm pretty sure his K knowledge is code. He won't crack his code because K knowledge usually won't crack it. I was like, well, that's very telling. But anyways, going with something data or tech related, giving them more resources, you go ahead and go down these rabbit holes because they really need to do a lot of the research on their own to come to the decision of, yes, I want to do this. And then for blueprint, they really want to see the process. So if in your subject line, you can say like my exact roadmap or my 7-step framework, they
Hmm.
are really going to resonate with that because they feel safe when they know this is exactly the system that's been laid out and I'm going to follow it exactly, which is for me, my blueprint's my fourth one. So if someone gives me a system, I want to mess it all up. I want to go like, I'm going to, well, not mess it up. I just want to create my own, which is
Yeah.
the knowledge side.
Yeah, which I think is pretty common for like creative entrepreneurs. I think most of us are like, I don't want a system that I need to follow to the T. Like, I'm going to find my own way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to customize it for myself, but the blueprints absolutely love having the system and just following it. A, B, C, D. Follow it to a T. They're very responsible.
Yeah, this was so great. I really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else that you want to add if people are feeling still stuck on where to start? Where do you recommend people start with this process?
If you want to learn more specifically about how you can use bank personality codes and copywriting emails, I do have my 2-day live event happening November 12th and 13th that you can come to. And Rachel, you can speak to it as well because you went to this 2-day live event and we really dig deep into practically, okay, how is this going to look? What is it going to look like? And have implementation time together to really write and ask questions and discover your writing voice through that 2-day live event. So if you're interested in that, you can go to my website. I finally just put it onto my website finally at deskplantcreatives.com. And if you go to my work with me page, you'll see the 2-day live event on that page and you can sign up there.
I can definitely vouch for the workshop. I was blown away by how in depth we got. So, really, anyone listening, take advantage because you get so much personal time with Joanne. It just gives you a really good base for developing your voice and your email copywriting in particular, like really tailoring that. I'm going to give you an unsolicited testimonial right here live just because somebody shared this with me really recently. One of the things that I came away from that workshop was we rejiggered our welcome sequence, right? To be tailored to the bank code. And I completely rewrote my welcome sequence. And I actually got some feedback recently, just a couple of weeks ago, that my initial welcome sequence, she got it and it made her cry. I was like,
Oh,
that's like the best feedback ever. Like, I leaned into that nurture side and the storytelling side. So I just want to share that because it's really powerful. And if you are able to join, you should.
thank you for sharing that, Rachel. Oh my gosh, I love hearing that. Thank you so much. I absolutely love hearing these stories. And you're inspiring me because I am currently rewriting my welcome nurture sequence. And sometimes it can be hard when you're in the bottle trying to overthink it. That's my knowledge side. But that really does inspire me. I am almost done with it and it is really fun. So, yes, please come join us in the 2-day live event. At the last round, I had an attendee there who said, like, it's like the gift that keeps giving. And I said, oh, that's a good
Yeah.
way to put it. That's how I want it to feel is it really is a gift that keeps giving. It is now a paid event, but with how deep we go, and I'm limiting it to 6 spots, it's going to be very customized feedback. You're going to feel safe to ask any questions that you have. And then also with all the bonuses, it's more than $2,000 worth of value in this event.
Yeah.
So you get a lot out of it.
I think that I did give you the feedback at the time when I took it. You should be charging for this because it's so much value. So I'm glad
Yes.
that you're doing that now.
Thank you. Yes, yes. I got a lot of that feedback from a lot of people, and I said, okay, I think I need to listen to create a price for it. So it's really fun. You do get to start discovering your authentic writing voice, but then also it's really about the structures around the welcome nurture sequence, and it's all around how to get more engagement, more clicks, and more clients through your emails.
Yeah. Is there anywhere else that people should be looking for you online?
Yes, so I'm mostly in my email. So come join my email community there. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. So I love seeing your posts, Rachel. I can see your playfulness there. and also like your raw and vulnerability, which I really appreciate. And
Thank
so
you.
LinkedIn, you can look me up, Joanne Homestead. I'm the only Joanne Homestead on LinkedIn. Still can't find me, you can do Joanne Homestead copywriter and it will come up there and say hi to me. And if you want to just figure out what's going on with your copywriting, you're not quite sure what's going on, you're just not getting much engagement, you're not quite sure. If you want to pinpoint the exact missing pieces, I do have my Copy Compass quiz that you can take, which was what you got to experience, Rachel, during the event, which then became
Mm-hmm.
a new lead magnet. And so this is my gift. It is my 7-step framework that I use that I've noticed with my clients. And if you go through the Copy Compass quiz, you'll see not only what are the missing pieces, but what are your strengths? Like what is working
Mm-hmm.
for you? I am all about strength based. Let's lean into your superpowers and your strengths.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Okay, how good was that conversation? And how lovely is Joanne? She's just like a ray of sunshine. I love chatting with her. The key thing that I want you to take away from this conversation is that your brand voice is so much more than your logo, and it should be distinctive and it should come from your personal stories. This is not about being loud. Every touch point with your potential clients, with your audience, needs to be you. So use the stories that you're already living. And if you want a lens for connection, try Joanne's bank approach to meet different personalities without losing your own. Definitely go say hi to Joanne on LinkedIn, jump on her email list, check out her 2-day live event. I did it. It's so worth it. And take her Copy Compass quiz. All the links are in the show notes. As always, if you found this episode helpful, please send it to a friend who is struggling to find her voice. I will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. All right, beautiful human. That's a wrap on this episode of Bold Women in Business. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honey Be Bold, with music by Shmukulele. But before you go, don't forget to take the Content Marketing Power Type quiz at honeybebold.com/quiz, because when your content fits your power type, showing up gets way easier and your marketing actually starts working for you. Until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and keep doing it your way.